In Washington, the Republican Party has defined itself this year as the party of no, the party that brags about contributing 0 votes to stuff that, passes anyway. That has led to the awkward spectacle of Republicans who voted against the stimulus, guys like Senator Kit Bond of Missouri and Congressman Pete Hoekstra of Michigan, touting the benefits of the stimulus to their constituents. That would be the stimulus that they voted against. That's the kind of inscrutable accountability you try to get away with when you are the GOP in exile.
On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again.
The GOP is also in exile in the great state of California, where Democrats have big majorities in both houses of the legislature. However, California is turning out to be a test lab for what happens when the party in exile, the party of no, can't get overruled. Legislative rules in California require a 2/3 vote on certain legislation, which means a few minority Republican votes are needed to pass the Golden State's horrible new budget. Why is it horrible? Well, because California capped property taxes when I was 5. I remember because that shut down my town's library for most of the week. Not that I'm bitter. With no real property tax base, California is instead really dependent on income taxes. And since people's income goes up and down with a lot of volatility depending on the state of the economy, California's state budget has ended up being really sensitive to economic downturns. And in case you hadn't noticed, this is to economic downturns what a buffalo is to a buffalo wing. California is in a really bad state. They've got a $42 billion budget deficit, and they're not allowed to run budget deficits. They're a state. Still, though, the Republican governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and legislative leaders from both parties saw what was coming. They spent the last 3 months negotiating a budget together that would be awful, but would fix the deficit problem. And now, the Republicans won't vote for it. The Assembly has the 3 Republican votes that they need there. The Senate has 2 Republican votes, but they can't get the crucial 3rd. They even fired their own party's leader in the Senate for agreeing to be one of those 2 votes in favor. As go California Republicans, so go national Republicans? Eek! Joining us now is Karen Bass, the Democratic Speaker of the California State Assembly. Madam Speaker, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
You have the votes in the Assembly to pass the budget, but it is the Senate that is holding things up. Can you tell us what has come to a stop in the state? What has happened in the state of California because of this impasse?
Well, let me tell you that a couple of months ago, several hundred transportation projects that were vital to our state had to be halted, and several other projects did as well. I tell you, California is ready to go over a cliff, and that will happen tomorrow, because tomorrow 276 more projects, which will lead to tens of thousands of people being put out of work, will be called to a halt tomorrow if we don't get that 1 Republican vote tonight.
Do you mean literally that highway overpasses that are mid-construction will the work on them will stop with the rafters sticking out, right, the rebar? Yeah, okay.
That is exactly what I mean, and I will tell you that these projects that remain were allowed to go forward because they impacted public safety. That's why they weren't stopped a couple of months ago. So if we don't vote on this budget tonight, those projects will stop, and let me tell you that it will cost us close to $400 million to stop those projects and then start them again. And the only thing that is standing in the way is 1 Republican vote. The party of no votes, the party of no solutions.
Well, what is the Republicans' tactical goal here? Are they proposing an alternate plan for dealing with this $42 billion budget cap, or are they just invested in saying no to the existing plan?
Well, that's exactly why I said no solutions, because no, they have not put forward a plan. They did a couple of months ago talk about $42 billion of cuts, but understand that over the last 3 years, we have cut $19 billion in transportation, education, health, and human services. We are even proposing $15 billion more in cuts. It is impossible in the state of California to close a $42 billion budget without raising taxes. And so we have 5 brave Republicans. We need 1 more.
The reason that we're talking about this on this show tonight is not just that California is the 8th largest economy in the world, and California is the most populous state in the country, and California in its own terms is massively important to the fate of our country. It's also because a lot of people around the country are looking at California and thinking that that is a test lab for what may be happening nationally. Is the Republican Party in California viewing this obstruction as a net positive? Are they proud of this, of denying this last vote?
Well, absolutely they are. And let me just tell you that it is not always the individual legislators, okay? Because there are many legislators that would like to do the right thing, and they understand what the right thing is. The problem in California, just like the rest of the nation, is right-wing talk radio that literally threatens these individuals. As a matter of fact, one famous station in our state has put Republican legislators' heads on sticks, and they have threatened to recall them. They have threatened to run a candidate in a primary against them, and the individual Republican Party committees in different cities and different regions have called for the recall of legislators. So it's not always the individual legislators, it is the Republican Party in the state of California.
Having something in California that has that kind of radicalizing effect on a party, though, it's easy to see how that can influence things from one direction, but there's got to be public opprobrium from the other direction, people being mad that this is being stopped simply because of the intransigence of one vote. I mean, there's got to be a push in the other direction politically, too, right?
Well, exactly. You know, although many people do buy into the mantra of no taxes, and frankly, I'm not celebrating the fact that we need to raise taxes, but what I do understand is that we cannot devastate education. We already fund education at a lower level than most other states in the country. And so sometimes you just have to step up and you have to do what might feel uncomfortable for you ideologically. It's certainly uncomfortable for Democrats to make the type of cuts that we've made, just as it's uncomfortable for the Republicans to go against the pledge they took and vote for taxes.
California Assembly Speaker Karen Bass, good luck to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I'll need some luck.
Probably some sleep, too. I understand. Thank you, ma'am.